And then when you've got someone like Szoboszlai, who has, suddenly become the footballer that I think we all hoped and dreamed that he would be when everyone was comparing him to Steven Gerrard, he's finally, becoming his own man. That middle of the park for me was where we absolutely dominated and beat them to a pulp.
Szoboszlai, John, is, when he was being compared to Steven Gerrard, he was 22. He's now suddenly 24. He turned 24 in October. And I think maybe we've missed this, the idea that he's a player who's going to mature on our watch. I think he's been absolutely excellent since getting back from his illness. But he also just evokes to me the idea that something's clicked, that it's not just not the idea that he's doing one thing markedly better, but that it feels as though a lot of what he's doing's just increased 10%, if you know what I mean. And then suddenly you've got this footballer on your hands who right now I think looks, for any big game, verges on absolutely undroppable all of a sudden, which was not the case back in the autumn.
No, he wasn't. He's been through a really interesting sort of evolution, hasn't he? When he came, he was fantastic, but it was like, the boy of the Rovers, Steven Gerrard, wasn't it? If we're going to sort of do that comparison, and you could tell he was a player who was used to being a team's best player, and I didn't watch a huge amount of him, in club football, before he came to Liverpool, but I think he looked like he'd grown up, and not just in school, where they're all doing the best players through that. Obviously, with the national team, and we watched him now for Hungary and stuff like that, he's clearly the sort of the main man. And he turned up and sort of, played like that and acted like that in terms of on the pitch, but then his form sort of dipped a little bit, and we started asking different things sort of from him. And I wouldn't say he struggled to adapt to that because I think he did, but I think it was how do you balance it? How do you balance this rare gift that he has that is able to create match-winning moments within this sort of team ethic? And he had both. He always clearly had both within him, and he's shown both. But it was all very much one or the other, I think. So he was almost kind of stifling this Roy of the Rovers-ness that wasn't necessarily what Liverpool needed, because they've got really good footballers. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to come and be Liverpool's best player. We've got Mo Salah, and we've got plenty of other sorts of stars. What we did need was, being a really good footballer, obviously, but the work rate, that the idea of, using his sort of physical attributes, that the press, which is vital for Liverpool, both under Klopp and Slot, just in sort of slightly different ways, but he's always sort of been a big leader on combining them all and to become like an all-round excellent team footballer who is still able to create these moments that the opposition go, wow, the fuck you meant to deal with that. And it was, now we're seeing him combine the two, and I think that's why he's such an effective footballer that everyone's raving about, because last season when he was just being the team player, you got the people going, why isn't he doing all that stuff anymore? And it's not quite happening from the ball, he's not creative enough. And I was getting that as a kind of a criticism, really. But I think now, and it's with that maturity that you're talking about, Neil, and with the fact that he's got an outstanding coach who clearly really believes in him and clearly sort of wants to develop him. The fact that, like James says, he's playing this unbelievable midfield with selfless footballers who are able to ping balls in. And so that was the key for that opener. It's how quickly he gets the ball. You can be in space, but space will be shut down eventually if you don't get the ball quickly. It's how quickly we were moving it that was markedly different from, for example, the Manchester United game a few weeks ago. So all that helps. So, but he's using his talent in a fantastic way at the moment. So he's this combination of great team player, who's this athlete who's able to support Mo Salah down the right hand side, who's able to support Trent, when necessary. He's able to support fucking everyone because he's everywhere with this quality. And when you can pull all that together, real dangerous football. And I think that's sort of what clicked with him, really. It's this thing of, okay, yeah, I can be the fourth forward. Yeah, I can do that if that's sort of what you need for me in this games, which we very much do, especially with Diaz in there. This idea of being this extra runner, being this sort of fourth forward, and being this, extra goal threat. I think makes perfect sense to him, and he understands that, and he's able to do it, and he's in a rich vein of form at the moment. But I think there's been a lot of work to get there, both him and the coaches.
He seems like a player who's got out of his own head. And sometimes you can find that a very difficult thing to do as a footballer, particularly a footballer for a club like Liverpool, who's been talked about and dissected after every game. And as John said, the talk was all about, yes, well, he can do the physical things, but if he's playing as a number 10, he needs to be affecting the game going forward. And he knows that he has quality going forward, but he wasn't able to really bring that. If you look at the movements he made in this game, the decisive movements in this game, they all look so instinctive. It wasn't a case of him getting to the edge of the box thinking, what am I going to do? It was, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to swing my hips, get past that guy, and I'll put it in the bottom corner.
And he had other options,
Yeah, he did. And Slot mentioned that after the game. He said earlier in the season, he would have passed to Mo Salah at that point. But he was like, no, I don't need to pass to Mo Salah. I mean, that's still a good idea most of the time, but I can do this one. And we talk about him being the full forward. I remember we were all having discussions where it was like, well, maybe we need to move him back. Maybe we need to buy another proper attacking midfielder. It's like, no, I got this. I can do all this. Don't worry. And it was the second league game in a row where he'd had more shots than anybody else in a Liverpool shirt on the pitch.